Music, dance, theater. It's time to take a seat on the aisle with Tom Alvarez. Hear from performers, producers, presenters, and creators who enrich our lives in the performing arts. Who's on stage? Here is Tom Alvarez to introduce you.
Hello, and welcome to On the Aisle with yours truly, Tom Alvarez. My guest today is violinist extraordinaire Kevin Lin, who has received international acclaim for his musicianship. Concertmaster of the Indianapolis Symphony Orchestra, Lin is recognized for his virtuosity and soulful playing. Now, let's go on the aisle to join my wide-ranging conversation with this gifted artist. Kevin, what a pleasure it is to have you with me. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me.
Thank you for having me, Tom. Appreciate it.
So I want to dedicate this program to our dear friend and your colleague, Marianne Williamson, who passed away last July. I miss her terribly. I know that you and many of her compatriots at the ISO and her many friends in Indiana, around the world. And so I thought it would be fitting. So tell me about your own experience with Marianne.
Oh my God. I had the pleasure of meeting her for the first time. I remember I started the job at the ISO, must have been right during the pandemic, because I remember one of the first time I met her, it was during a music director search committee meeting. And I walk into this meeting. I know Katie McGinnis is the artistic director at the time. She was the only person I knew. I walked into this room and there were 8 or 9 of us, and Marianne just happened to be one of them. And she was clearly not a musician. She was a little bit older than the rest of the orchestra, but she was just spewing out so much knowledge about conductors and composers. I was like, okay, is she a music historian? Is she she clearly knows way more than the common person. And was going into so much depth about each and every topic. And that was the first time I got to meet her. And so throughout the years, we got to know each other quite well. She was always very nice. I saw her at concerts, and we always chit-chatted and talked shop about conductors we liked and conductors we didn't like. And so, we created a pretty nice friendship that way.
And for those who aren't aware of who Marianne Williamson was, of course, she was on the board of trustees for the ISO. She herself is a Harvard-trained concert pianist. She also wrote the spectacular, brilliant program notes
that
educated me for years.
That's right. And she took so much pride in writing each and every one of those.
And, most importantly, she shared with me many times about how much she loved musicians and the musicians of ISO, that she had deep friendships with many of them.
Right.
And I know that it really was a loss. Later on in the program, you're going to play something for us that you performed at her memorial service, but that's later. So in the meantime, okay, I'm sitting here and it's just I can't believe it's a rarefied experience to be sitting just feet away from a virtuoso. I've reviewed your concerts many times, and I've always made reference to how your playing makes me feel. It's visceral, and you've been called a soulful violinist. Mm. Where does that come from?
I think I have a very interesting view and philosophy on music. It's easy to kind of read the music off the page and play it for exactly the note worth. If it's a quarter note, you play it for a quarter note. But I've always thought about it a little bit different. In a way where the music on the page is basically a guideline. It's the composer trying to dictate what he or she may be hearing in her head into something that you can count out mathematically. And when you try to translate that to emotions and how people feel, it doesn't necessarily always correlate or translate that way. And so I read the music in a way where it's like, okay, I understand what this person's trying to do. Now I have to play it in a way that's not mathematical, but makes sense emotionally. And I feel like that's the biggest difference between a very good violinist and, let's say, like the great artists out there today. And that's something that I've always admired, throughout my studies, seeing great teachers. I studied with Aaron Roseanne myself, and he was always a stickler on rhythm. Yes, obviously it's very important, but it's always music first. You have to play it in a way where it really speaks to the person, and it's not just a math exercise per se.
Mm-hmm. It's expression, of course.
Yeah.
And how is it relatable to, say, theater, drama?
Well, I think the people who major and do theater and drama day in and day out, they kind of they put a lot of emphasis from this in the beginning. When we're trained as violinists, we're trained to count out quarter notes. It's a very literal mathematical approach to learning the violin, and there's techniques, bow direction and all this kind of stuff that's not very that's not very expression forward. And so I think once you acquire enough technique, you have to start taking a cue from the singers and the people who on Broadway and all the actors who literally are masters at conveying human emotions. And that's something that we have to master as musicians ourselves to kind of reach that next level.
Well, part of this rarefied experience that I'm having right now is also, to hear you play that Vivaldi piece. Spring is right around the corner, so I thought it would be appropriate. And, you whip out this Stradivarius.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. Tell me about your instrument.
Yeah, I would love to. I was very lucky to be based here in Indianapolis, and obviously we have an incredible international violin competition. And as one of the violin basically goes to whoever wins the violin competition, and the competition happens every 4 years. And Serena Huang actually just so happens to have an incredible violin on loan to her already. And so she doesn't necessarily need this violin. And so Glenn Kwok, who's the executive director of the competition, has very graciously lent me the violin for the next 4 years. Violins need to be played on, like it's a living and breathing piece of wood. And if it's, locked away in a cellar somewhere, in an office somewhere, it kind of closes up and it clamps up. And you can really hear the difference if someone hasn't really played into the violin for a while. So I like to think that I'm helping the IVCI, but I'm sure, it's definitely mutually beneficial for me to have this violin.
Well, I asked you when I met you in the lobby here at the station, if you had an armed guard accompanying you.
Well, yeah,
and you didn't.
I didn't. I try to stay, under the radar, especially with stuff like this.
Sure.
I leave it I don't leave it at the house. I keep it in a very secure location. There's, when I was loaned this instrument, I had to speak to the insurance company, and they were asking me all these questions about where I'm going to be keeping it, how do I travel with it, and all this kind of stuff. So there are so many checkpoints in place.
I have so many questions about the instrument itself.
Yeah, please.
But we got one thing. Okay, what was the year again?
It was made in 1683. So it's
marked on the.
It is marked in the violin. So there's a little label that Stradivarius signed inside.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, this thing is old.
And how many owners do you know?
Oh my God, I can't even count. Dozens. But the provenance of this violin is insane.
Yeah. Seems to me, wasn't that on the plot of Red Violin?
The Red Violin was about a Stradivarius violin, not specifically this one, but
about its history.
About its history, and Elizabeth Pitcairn is a violin virtuoso who actually owns the Red Violin right now. So.
Joshua Bell, Indiana Jacob School of Music graduate, who's played the music in the film.
I believe so. Yes, that's right.
Are you a fan?
That's right. I am a huge fan of Josh. I'm a huge fan, and
of the movie too, right?
And the movie too. Yes.
So your own violin has an incredible sound. May we hear some more of it? That was exquisite. What was that?
Thank you. That was the Adagio from Sonata Number 1 by J.S. Bach.
So we better get on to talk about the ISO. How
Please.
long have you been with the orchestra?
3 to 4 years now. I came here during the pandemic, March of 2020.
And tell me about your audition.
Ooh, yeah. So I'm going to bring it back a little bit. So I graduated from the Curtis Institute in 2017, and I was very lucky to get a job with the London Philharmonic right out of school. So I started in London August of 2017, and as soon as I landed there, it was an amazing time. I had made great friends. The people at the LPO are incredibly friendly. But it was a different world, you up and move to a different country. You don't know anybody there. The currency is different. The lifestyle is different. The culture is different. And so as soon as I moved there, even though I enjoyed living in London, I was extremely homesick. So as soon as I got there, I was kind of looking for a way back to the States. All my friends were in various U.S. orchestras. My family's still in New Jersey. And so I immediately started reaching out to some of my friends that were in various U.S. orchestras, and Austin Huntington happened to be one of these friends that I went to school with. And so Austin, at the time, Zach was still here, so obviously there wasn't an opening. But as soon as there was, Austin put my name up to be considered for the concertmaster job. And so maybe I was at maybe my second year with the London Philharmonic when I got a call from Katie McGuinness. So I was in London. I got this call on my British phone from a US number, and as soon as I picked up, it was a lady with essentially an accent that I'm very familiar with. So I know I was waiting for like an American accent to speak to me from the other side, and it happened to be Katie McGuinness asking if I wanted to do a guest week, and that's kind of how everything started. And through various guest weeks here and a concerto performance with Tchaikovsky and, talking with Krzysztof Ibransky, it was about a year and a half process before they finally offered me the job.
And you played for him, for Krzysztof and others, Krzysztof. Or just him alone?
For Krzysztof, I also played a week with Jack. And then at the end, obviously, I had to do an audition. I did an audition in front of, I believe the whole orchestra was invited to it, but I was too scared to look out, so I wasn't pressure looking at who was out there. But there was an audience for sure.
Was it the kind of experience you always thought it would be like when you were a student? You
mean auditioning?
Yeah, auditioning for that kind. In that
yeah,
setting?
Auditions are weird.
Do they prepare you for auditions?
In some ways, like they make. I've done a number of international violin competitions, and I've always found those to be slightly more stressful.
Oh.
And so when I do orchestra auditions, it's not. I don't feel like I'm competing against the top of the top of classical music right now. It's kind of a different skill set. So to me it didn't stress me out as much.
So did Austin fill you in on the orchestra and Indy and all of that? Give you a primer before you even showed up?
Of course. No, there wasn't. I mean, everyone is extremely lovely, and this orchestra gets along incredibly well, which is quite rare for symphony orchestras these days.
Well, I have a lot of questions about that culture. But tell me, how's the experience been thus far?
Oh, incredible!
The last 4 years,
incredible. I thought London Philharmonic was very friendly. I think this is. I apologize to the London Philharmonic, but slightly friendlier. Maybe it's something that I'm familiar with. It's the American lifestyle, and also it's an extremely young group of people. So we still hang out as if we're college grads, but we have a little bit of adult money now, so we can actually hang out on the weekends.
Well, I've noticed that within the last couple of years, I've been covering the ISO for many years, and I've noticed the shift. There are a lot of young new faces.
Definitely.
Is that due to retirements?
We had a number of retirements even before COVID, but especially during COVID. And then COVID kind of made a stop in the whole hiring process because we just couldn't get people in.
And do all of your young colleagues bring a fresh vitality?
Oh, for sure. And I mean, it's playing the violin, for example, is kind of like a sport. We have much more dexterity when we're younger. We're able to play a lot more accurately. You know, people are at the top of their game because they just graduated from school. So these people tend to be the ones who are winning the auditions right now.
And, you know, my next question is, what is your estimation of its current artistic quality?
I think on a technical level, we're extremely high. I would put us up there with any other U.S. orchestra right now. I think we have a lot of culture and tradition that we need to learn and bring to the orchestra just because we're such a new and young orchestra right now. But from a technical perspective, incredibly high.
Does an orchestra have a personality, and how would you describe that of the ISO?
I think the ISO is extremely raw in its current form, and which is why we're so excited about June Merkel. He is a seasoned veteran. He's a household name, and he's cultivated so many orchestras. And we are kind of this diamond in the rough, but like a giant diamond in the rough that he's going to come in and he's going to chisel away at it, and it's going to be this insane.
Well, you say household name, maybe to people in your business, but for our general listener, what makes him so special?
He's worked with every orchestra out there, whether it's Asia, Europe, the Americas. He's had jobs on all the continents, and you speak to any classical musicians, and I guarantee you they'll know his name.
And he's been, hasn't he been a consultant for the ISO for how long?
Well, ever since Christoph left, 2020.
Yeah, and what does that mean that he was a consultant or an advisor? He was an advisor.
He's an advisor. He's an artistic advisor. So he was basically the stand-in music director while we didn't have one. And he was helping us do the auditions that we could be auditioning at the time, and he was helping us find a music director.
What's it like for you musicians working with him?
I mean, I think he's one of us. You know, he's incredibly kind but extremely demanding of the orchestra and of himself, and that's kind of who we are as an orchestra right now.
How important is morale to an orchestra under a leadership?
It is extremely high. I mean, I'm not going to lie. The ISO has gone through a couple of years of tough times with the pandemic and you know, stuff like that. But given all of the variables and everything that happened, I'm still extremely proud and surprised by how well we are playing together. I think morale can definitely use a boost right now, but we're definitely headed in the right direction.
So what does that future hold under Markel's leadership? Do you think do you think you'll tour again? Do you think you'll record again?
So we're definitely going to record again. Record is definitely in the contract. We're going to do, I believe, 1 to 2 recordings a year, and I know Markel will bring a record deal with him to us. I don't know when it's going to happen, but he has a lot of connections to the.
How about touring? It used to be under Maestro Leppard that the orchestra toured all over the place, all over the world, right?
Yeah, definitely. Touring is an incredibly large financial. There's a large financial variable to it, and so if we can find the funding for a large international tour, we 100% do it. So we're going to put it out there. If anyone wants to sponsor a tour, please do so. But we are definitely looking in the short term. We're definitely looking at one-offs to maybe Carnegie Hall, or we have a large constituent of donors down in Florida, or there's a large connection to Taiwan as well. Maestro Merkel is the music director of the National Symphony in Taiwan. I myself, my family is from Taiwan, so we, there's a large connection to it.
I'm really interested in hearing about your family and your background. Tell me about it.
So both my parents are Taiwanese. They moved over here in their mid-20s. My dad was going to get his PhD in, I believe, molecular biology and genetics at the Columbia University. And then while my dad was getting his PhD, they had me. So I grew up in this Columbia dorm room in Washington Heights. And
Are you bilingual?
I am. I speak
Okay.
Mandarin and English.
Okay.
So so I grew up in that area, and then later on, with my sister also in the house, we moved out to New Jersey just for a little bit more space, and that's where my parents still are. I went to public school, elementary, middle school, high school there. So no,
When did you discover the violin?
6 years old, because one of my very good friends was also playing it at the time, and I'm naturally a pretty competitive kid. So if my friends do it, I need to do it too.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how violin started, and violin just became this tool for me to travel places. It got me on planes because I got to go to competitions, and I got to skip out on school sometimes, and I thought that was always kind of cool.
What appealed to you, the violin? What appealed to you, the instrument itself?
I see that came a lot later. I think that I didn't really appreciate the violin until I was in my undergrad, until I developed enough technique to actually express what I want to say with the violin. Before that, I was just like trying to learn how to play the violin. But sometime during undergrad, I realized I can manipulate time and sound to basically play out how I hear specific pieces. And once I had that power, it's amazing, because then I start playing for myself, and then I really enjoy it.
It's kind of a stereotype that Asians, excel with strings more than anybody else. Is there truth to that?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think Asians, growing up in an Asian household, like obviously parents are strict. I think it's the discipline aspect that makes Asians slightly more, I don't know, gravitated towards music and that kind of stuff.
A relationship with mathematics and music.
Sure, yeah.
And the stereotype is that Asians excel in science and math as well.
Yeah, but I think it goes to discipline. Like I have a lot of non-Asian friends who also grew up in extremely disciplined households who are just as successful. So I think the underlying variable is discipline.
Well, there is truth sometimes to stereotypes, but sometimes they're pretty broad. Right. So, well, you mentioned your college education, but just give me a brief thumbnail of all the education you've had.
Great. So undergraduate, I did at the Colburn Conservatory of Music, and then in Los Angeles. And then after that, I did 2 years at the Curtis Institute of Music. And I was very lucky to get a job right out of that. So that's basically it.
Now, do you stay in touch with all the people that you've met in the music business?
There's a lot of people in the music business. I stay in touch when I am in their current city. I am not very good at keeping up with friends. But, when I see somebody that I haven't seen in 3 years, we pick up where we left off.
I for obvious reasons, anyone who knows me, I'm Latino. So, covering the arts, I bring a special perspective because I care very much about representation. What are your thoughts about representation?
Very good question. And it's something that we discuss on a regular basis.
What I should preface when I mention that, I'm fully aware that it's not just here, but it's all over the world. Mm-hmm. That we don't see as many African Americans as
for sure.
But of course, is that because of matriculation? It hasn't happened. It's a generational thing, and so that's all part of. So people need to understand that it's not a simple kind of.
It is not a simple process, and I think this goes back to access, but not definitely at our level, at the symphony level. But this goes back to access to music education. Like I can remember back to when I first started the violin. There were almost no Latino, Black, underrepresented groups, just because music education is so damn expensive. It's like my parents, fortunately for me, were able to afford $100 an hour lessons. Not everybody can do that. That's crazy money for some people. And so in order for there to be more representation, I do think we need to increase the access on a much younger level. They need to be given opportunities to even have an opportunity in in music from an early age, because that's the way we build it.
And the ISO has taken up the
With
challenge.
MYO,
and
yes.
let's talk about that.
Yes, it's amazing. I try to volunteer with the MYO anytime I can.
And what's the organization?
Metropolitan Youth Orchestra. Okay. So it's basically this. I guess it's like an after-school youth program that basically invites both the kids and their parents to come and learn an instrument. Crystal Ford is running this program. She's incredible. And it basically, I think it's something like $250 for the year. You come, they feed you, they give you they give you food, and then you are immersed with a bunch of other people who are in a similar situation to you, and their parents who just kind of want to learn another instrument. And it also kind of builds the family group as well, because you're learning something with your parent, the parent is learning something with the kid. So we're trying to nurture music education on all levels.
They get to associate with professional musicians.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, when I've seen you all perform with that group, I feel there's this warmth that exists, and that I see smiles on the faces of the adults.
Right.
That you guys up there, you embrace them and, you nurture them.
Yeah.
You can just feel it. It's palpable.
Definitely. I think, and being a classical musician, of course, it can sometimes be very stuffy, where in straitjackets and suits, on stage, and it can seem unapproachable, but to be able to, kind of break that down, work with the MYO kids, and go back to our roots.
This is a perfect segue to my next question. So what do you say to those? This is kind of I'm going to put them all together, these quote, criticisms, if you will.
Yeah.
Those who push back against classical music because it's not relatable, or criticize it for being elitist or too European centric.
I have a very good answer to this. I think I've just thought about this a couple days ago. I correlate classical music to fine dining. Food. Musicians love food, so we can. I have a number of food analogies. So fine dining, obviously, the barrier to entry is quite high. It's usually a couple $100, and it's small plates of food. It's not for the masses. But do we appreciate places like Vita and all these nice, restaurants? Of course we do, because it's something totally different. And it's obviously, you can ask Vita to do burger night, and that's going to, of course, increase the access. But I feel like at that point, they're kind of dumbing down their product to appeal to the masses, and that's kind of taking away from what they actually do really well. And this is what I think about classical music. And so, yes, classical music isn't for everybody, and the barrier to entry is usually quite high. But what I want to do with classical music is give everybody the experience of classical music, like give everybody the experience of fine dining Vita, but increase that access to everybody and not having to dumb down what we actually do.
Well, from my viewpoint, I see that's something else that the ISO is attacking head on through its programming.
Definitely.
So let's talk about ISO's programming, and is it effectively breaking down stereotypes about the music genre? I
think so. I think the programming that we've done this year and next year is much more conservative. Maybe is the right word for it. So it'll be a lot of classical music that people will have heard on popular social media or TV these days. We're not exact. I don't think Indianapolis is quite ready for the super avant-garde, crazy contemporary music, even though there's, I'm sure there's a niche scene for that. But we have to build up our core audience first with classical music that people can relate to and enjoy, and then we can slowly introduce other things. Well, you have with Steve Hackman. We have. I've been in touch with Steve. I'm a big fan, and I reviewed. Talk about Steve Hackman. Oh, he's incredible. Like the way he's able to weave, classical music with pop culture these days. And name those concerts that you've played with. I remember there was like Biggie and Tupac and Kendrick Lamar, and he's doing it with Mahler and Beethoven, and then we're doing one more show of him this year. I don't think It's a Beatles one.
It's in April, isn't it?
Yeah, it's coming up.
Yeah.
But no matter what he does, he always does it so seamlessly. And I often get lost. It's like, wait, is that a classical music tune or is that a pop tune? Like he does it in a way where it's
he's coming
amazing.
on the show in a few weeks.
Oh,
when
he's
he
gonna be
comes to
great.
town. I can't wait to talk to him. You
Yeah.
know, I've been to those concerts where he has brought in people who've never been in the Hellbird or never experienced classical
It's really
music.
cool. Very cool.
I'm really interested in when I interviewed him. I interviewed him for my column on my website and asked him if anybody's tracked whether those people have come back to go to classical concerts.
I'm sure there's data there somewhere. Yeah.
I'd be really interested in how. And then, of course, talk about the Pops. The Pops has introduced people too.
It's always been. I mean, Jack Everly. I would say the Pops would not be the same without Jack. Jack is the Pops series, and every show that I've done with him, it's not like conventional pop. I've done Pops concerts with other orchestras, and a lot of times you just you play popular show tunes and stuff, and people go crazy over the show tunes. But now, not here. It's like it's as if Jack does like a Yuletide. He puts the same amount of dedication to each and every show.
I say this every year, and it's true that if you're looking for a Broadway quality show, it's Yuletide.
This is the guy to do it.
The production values are out of this world.
And he brings everybody from
he
everywhere.
spent a lot of time on Broadway.
Yeah, that's right.
Hello, Dolly conducted and all that.
Yep.
What's he like working with?
Oh, he's the most unassuming man you'll ever meet in your life. I had no idea. He's super nice. He took me out for a drink when I first was auditioning for the job, and we were just sitting at the Capitol Grill, and had no idea he conducted the soundtrack to Hunchback of Notre Dame. He's done all these things, and I'm just sitting here with essentially pop music royalty.
Not only that, he was a conductor for the American Ballet Theater for 15 years. I don't think people realize.
And he's so unassuming, and he's so humble. It's amazing.
Well, Kevin, we saw each other recently at a, quote, reveal celebration. Let's talk about Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah, please.
The partnership between the ISO and Indianapolis Ballet.
Yes.
And you were there present with Yoshiko, the principal dancer with ballet.
That's right.
Jack Everly and Victoria Leros. What does that mean to you to perform? You of course, the two organizations are coming together to do this Romeo and Juliet. It's very historic, and it's in May, right?
It's in May, yeah. It's really cool. Vicky Leros actually. I got to sit next to her. I sat next to Jackie Needis.
Yes.
I sat next to Jackie Needis at an MYO fundraiser once.
And Jackie Needis, for people listening, she is on the board of both organizations.
Yeah, she's kind of like the bridge between our
former
organizations.
city county councilman.
So I sat next to her, and she's like, "Oh, Kevin, you're the perfect person. I need you to meet Vicky. You guys will totally hit it off. You guys have a lot to talk about." I was like, "Okay, cool." Met up with Vicky, and I've never met a more passionate person about their art form ever. She's sitting there and she's going into depth about all the school she started in the Indianapolis Ballet and all the people that she's brought in and the company and the people who are helping her create this this program. And she's like, all we need to do is play it to live music. And I've been to one of their concerts, and they're incredible dancers, but they're always playing to recordings. And I was like, that's kind of weird. That's we're right down the street. We should do something with them. And so Vicky's asked me a couple times can you just come and play with them? And I've done a couple concerts with them where it's just a solo violin and played with Yoshiko. And it's incredible what they can do. And so to finally now be able to bring our two organizations together professionally and formally and in conjunction with Clues Hall, this is kind of 3 years of work finally coming to culmination.
And it's not only the music, the whole production is going to be, they kept using the term over the top. They're talking about the set design by a designer, help me remember his name. Turns out he was head of scenic design for the IU Opera and Ballet, which has been compared to the Met. And I reviewed the both schools many times, and it's amazing what they're doing down
Supposedly
there.
he's coming out of retirement just to do this.
Yeah, what is his name? Anyway, so they were sketches of the set.
It looked really nice, and we saw like one of the things that the
have you yourself performed in orchestras, ballets, and opera?
I have. So when I was when I was in London, our Christmas shows were the Nutcracker with the Birmingham Ballet at the Royal Albert Hall. So I've done. Oh my God!
So you know that music by heart.
I can play with the book closed for sure.
Well, sometimes I try to refrain myself. This isn't about me, but I do have a lot of experience in Nutcracker myself. I ran a ballet company, and I spent a whole month in the wings.
Cool. Yeah.
These were Russian dancers. They were all from big stars.
Yeah.
And they came here for a company called Ballet International that no longer exists.
Right.
And, they, if I'm not mistaken, they had live music, the chamber orchestra, but yeah, there's nothing like it.
Nothing like it.
And it's a whole different, and didn't you say, or someone, maybe Jack, that, gives you musicians an opportunity, or musicians who haven't had the experience to play with dancers. Yeah. It's a whole different
It's very, very different, because now we got to
explain that. What makes it different?
Ballet dancers, their art form, they have to deal with gravity and how they jump and timing of all this kind of stuff. For us, if we want to play faster, we just play faster. You can't make a ballet dancer jump faster. And so for us to be able to understand that and to be able to give more clarity to the music that we're playing, for example, Romeo and Juliet or Swan Lake, we have to play it in a way that makes sense from a ballet point of view. We can't just play it the way we want from a flashy violinistic point of view. To be able to work with dancers, we'll actually be able to learn how the music is actually supposed to be played.
Okay. I would love to hear you play something else. Please do so.
This is the Ninth Caprice by Paganini.
So tell me about Kevin Lin, the person.
Ooh.
Are you married?
Know?
Do you have children?
I am not married. I am engaged. I do not have children.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
I saw you with a guest. And so
that was my
we
fiance.
Didn't get to meet.
Yeah. Philomena Duffy. I'm very lucky.
Tell me about her.
So we met during the pandemic. We were in the same pandemic bubble. People remember that.
Heard that for a while.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So we were part of the pandemic bubble, and it was really fun. She was helping me with my Hinge dating profile, and somehow we never crossed paths on the online dating scene. But we got to know each other pretty well, through COVID. And
wow, you found love in Indianapolis of all places.
I know. So she's quite special.
So how do you like residing in Indy?
I love it. I really do. This is the smallest city I've ever lived in. I've lived in.
What do you love about it?
I love that I can run into the same people time and time again. Like if I'm out on a run on the cultural trail or on the canal, I'll run into the usual group of people.
I've been wondering if you're an athlete because you're tall, you're like well built. I figured he's an athlete. I wonder what he does.
See, this is also like a pandemic thing. Like I feel like my life totally, changed for the better during the pandemic. So, it gave us a lot of time to not be at work and to kind of take a break.
So do you and Austin run together? He's
we
a
do,
runner.
yeah.
How cool is that?
Well, it's not just us. There's a number of us that run marathons in the orchestra, and thank God in these like relatively flat. So I feel like that's much easier for us than other cities. But given that this is a young, competitive orchestra, we're all pretty competitive with each other, not only musically, but also
well, let's talk about running and its relationship to art.
Sure.
I think I used to run, and I tell people I love that so-called zone. It's where I did my most creative work.
Yeah.
Problem solving, meditation. Yeah. There's nothing like it.
There's nothing like it. And
and you can eat anything you want.
That's the other thing. Yeah, you can eat. Yeah. I don't know. For me, it's always like the first 3 miles totally suck because you're just like getting through the pain. But then after mile 3 or 4, for me, you're in that zone, and the time just flies by, and I think about so many different things. I think about the program that I'm playing, or
it doesn't help you with your art form.
Definitely. Yeah. I think mental practice is an extremely important part of what we do, and so to be able to work on that stuff away from the violin.
Where do you run?
Up and down the Monon, around the canal.
How about White River State Park?
Yes. Yeah. If you want to do a 10K loop, you do the canal plus the white. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
what part of town do you live in?
I bought a house in Windsor Park.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
near Can-Can?
Yeah, near Can-Can and Amelia's. And
Amelia's coffee shop.
It's amazing.
It's like a really cool little community.
I love it.
Have you met Tom Batista, who made all that happen?
No.
He's like, he's responsible for a lot of what's happened on the East End.
That is really cool. Yeah, I mean, they're really developing it. I mean, week over week, it's totally changing.
So what do you think in general of our art scene?
I think...
You get a chance to experience it?
Well, yes. I wish I could experience it more from a casual perspective. I think I am pretty lucky if I walk in somewhere, they usually know I'm associated with the symphony, and then they want to talk to me about the symphony. But sometimes I want to walk in and kind of be a fly on the wall and just kind of watch. And I get to do that. I mean, at Newfields, like I've walked into Newfields and kind of just done my own thing.
I was going to ask you, are you a fan of visual art?
I am. Visual art. I grew up I did my undergrad in LA, so pop art and modern art.
The Getty.
Yes, the Getty, the MoCA, all this kind of stuff. I have an appreciation for that. So
do you collect art yourself?
A little bit. I would like to do more of it. Obviously it's a very expensive hobby. But that's definitely something I'm getting more into. Yeah.
So what are some of the arts organizations are you a theater fan?
I want to be. I have not, to be totally honest, I have not been to that many.
Okay.
I would love to get more into it.
Do you like musicals?
Yes. Obviously with Jack, I mean, when you're introduced that way, you have to be.
Yeah. Well, yeah, your knowledge of the musical repertoire must be huge. I mean, under Jack.
Under Jack, for sure. To be totally honest, this is another thing about Kevin Lin, the person. I suck at names. I will remember a person's face. I will remember tunes, but I am so terrible with names. And that's the same way with classical music or shows or whatever.
Names of musicals?
Yeah, exactly. So if you hum me a tune, I can sing you the entire melody, but I couldn't for the life of me tell you where it's from.
Okay.
But I do have an appreciation for all these they're just like melodies and tunes running through my head all the time.
Yeah. Do you like cabaret? Have you been to any cabaret? We have two major ones.
We do. Yeah. We do. I have been to one, but with the Indianapolis Ballet. Actually, one of their galas was at.
Oh yeah.
The
cabaret.
The cabaret. The venue. It's awesome space.
And have you been to any performances at the Palladium or Feinstein's, which is right next door?
I've not been to Feinstein's, but Palladium I've been. We've done a lot of. Recordings and concerts there.
Were you was that before your time when they were doing a concert Pops concerts out there at the Palladium?
This was before my time, but I believe we are going to start doing more things.
I hope so.
We're branching out. The pandemic kind of shrunk what we did a little bit just from a safety perspective, but I think we're definitely collaborating more with Clues now and the Palladium. So there will be more to come.
If you were to tour, where are some places that you would love to go with the symphony?
I would love to take the symphony, to London, of course. I mean, I feel like that would be full circle for me to be able to go there with these guys. Also to Taiwan, an Asia tour or a European tour would be huge. Mm-hmm. That would firmly put us back on the map as one of the best orchestras.
Generally, Kevin, what inspires you?
Other people. I like to see other people who are also motivated, or other people who are enjoying their lives. That's kind of what gets me up in the morning. Just seeing other people be happy. Who
are your music influences?
I was very influenced by Pinchas Zukerman, Aaron Rosand. These are all people that I've studied with. And then a lot of my colleagues these days, they keep pushing me.
What are some of your favorite pieces?
Mahler's Second Symphony, Strauss's Also Sprach that we did 2 weeks ago, and any of the Tchaikovsky and Brahms symphonies.
What's a day like for a professional musician like yourself? Describe that.
Okay. So we usually work on average Tuesday through Saturday. That's our work week. And Sunday and Monday are usually our weekends. But on Tuesdays, it'll be a 10 to 10. We basically work from 10 to 3:30, and that's our rehearsals. And when we come back, we go home and we practice, or we go teach. And then that's repeated Wednesday, Thursday, and then we have concerts on Friday and Saturday.
And we've already talked about the fact that you run, and that apparently you like restaurants as well. So you like fine dining. And you like to visit the art museum. So it sounds like you have a pretty balanced life. You try to live your life that way?
I try to. I mean, I have a lot of friends who also enjoy the same thing. And so
do you watch junk TV?
Oh, all the time. All the time.
What do you watch? What are you streaming?
My fiance's got the, weekly Bachelor watch nights.
What are you watching? What are your streaming shows?
I am currently watching Grey's Anatomy. I didn't realize there were so many episodes of it. So I'm on Grey's Anatomy. I've always done Big Bang Theory, How I Met Your Mother, a big fan of Modern Family.
Do you think a show, I don't know, it just occurred to me out of the blue, do you think a show about a symphony orchestra?
Well, there was one, Mozart in the Jungle. Did you know about this? So on Amazon, I don't know, I don't think it's still running, but they did like this highly dramatized thing about classical music. Mozart in the Jungle, you got to check it out. And it's just about the orchestra drama. Obviously, some of it is true, but it's definitely taken to a level where it's good for TV.
Wouldn't it be cool if there were like a reality show?
I think so. Too many secrets would be spilled.
Producers out there, we got an idea for you.
Think about it, or at least there are more things coming out these days. There's Maestro, there's Tar. Marin Alsop has a documentary about herself. So I do think there's more and more spotlight on classical music. I wish there was more. But
in my experience covering the arts, I asked that question because I think the public, if they knew that musicians, it is a discipline and it is a job.
Yeah.
And the dedication that goes into it and the sacrifice that's made by musicians it's astounding, really.
It's crazy.
And for it to all come together in a performance, just the whole lifestyle of a musician. Yeah. If people knew more about it, and it's still a process of education.
For
but
sure.
Having said that, what do you hope will be the future for this country in terms of of classical music, broadly speaking?
I hope that anyone that wants to enjoy classical music will be able to comfortably come into a concert hall and enjoy it. I know there's a lot of it's daunting to walk into a classical music performance. You sometimes don't know where to clap. You don't know how to dress. There's a lot of this.
Let's talk about that, because again, in my experience, there's a lot of insecurity that comes along. If you've not experienced, people have these notions that, and the whole elitist thing, they have this representation that they've seen previously. And there is a lot of insecurity attached to it. There definitely is. And, I didn't discover classical music until, I came from a blue collar background. I just wasn't exposed to it. We're going to get into that. Yeah. But I finally got I understood the relationship through television. Yeah. Yeah. When I realized that classical music was the basis for a lot of television. Yeah. And movies.
Definitely. I think I wish we could just tell you to not worry about it, because for us, if you clap in between movements, we love it, because obviously that just shows that you appreciate what we've done. We're not I can't believe they clapped. There's
you don't give a stink eye to somebody in the third row that's clapped.
Not at all.
Between movements.
And if I wish you could see what we see from the stage. From my seat.
What is that like?
From my seat, you look out. There's people of every race, color, gender, orientation, shape, size. Anybody should be able to come in. And the more diversity that we see, the happier we are, because that just means it's classical music really is for everybody, and that's how I live my life thinking about it. And so. There's no right way to dress for the symphony. There is no one way to appreciate classical music. Everyone should come in and take it as
well. I have to tell you, I was a little taken back, but now I've gotten used to it, and I've had to tell myself, Tom, don't be so stuffy myself, because I've now seen people in flip flops.
Well, I mean, Indiana's just cold. I don't know if that's going to be comfortable for you. Well, but if you want to each their own.
But I think that's a good sign. Yeah. People are feeling comfortable, and it took a while, but that's kind of the California style. It takes, like they say in the Midwest, it takes us 5 years to get stuff. But now it looks like people are. You see all kinds of people, and it's so diverse. It's so diverse. Audiences are much more diverse.
But also, I think it's cool. What the one thing we in Indianapolis, we don't have that many super fancy events that we can attend, and I think the symphony is definitely one of them. So I feel like the symphony definitely gives those who want to dress up and feel fancy. That's the perfect place to do it. It's a
gowns,
date night.
I've seen
people look
furs
awesome.
as politically incorrect that they are these days.
But it happens. It's here.
I've seen it all.
It's definitely a place to.
And then we haven't even talked about Conner Prairie.
Yeah.
And when we're talking about democratizing classical music by introducing people to symphony orchestra, how do you like performing out there?
It is hot. It is so hot out there.
How about the mosquitoes and bugs?
That's we don't get it as bad on stage, because there's a fan blowing from behind us, so I think that's blowing most of the bugs away. But I think it's a totally different demographic. There was data showing who shows up at Conner Prairie, and does that translate to audience members downtown, and I think the percentage is actually quite low. So we're definitely playing to a different audience when we're out in Conner Prairie, and I love that we're able to give them that experience.
Do you recommend that children learn an instrument, and why?
Yes. This goes back to the discipline thing. You have to learn how to take care of an instrument. You can't just it's like having a pet without having to worry about the livelihood and the safety of the pet, but you also have to take care of this extremely expensive instrument. That's one. To be able to have the patience and discipline to learn a specific skill and something that's so minute, that's also incredibly useful to everyday life. And also, music is something that should be played with other people. It's a friend activity, it's a group activity, it's a socializing activity. So when you put all these things together, I kind of see it as like a building block for childhood development.
What advice would you give to parents and teachers regarding encouraging young people to take up an instrument?
I was told this from a very young age. I mean, obviously, if from a teacher's perspective, if the kid can afford violin lessons, let's just use violin as an example. If the kid can afford violin lessons, sure, you charge them what they can afford, and you teach them. If a kid comes to you and they can't afford it, it is your job to teach them for whatever they can afford, even if it's free. I don't think any kid should be stifled from a musical education just because of the money aspect. And so if you are able to, donate your time to basically nurture this child and give them a better education for the future, that is your job as a musician to do so. And as a parent, I would hope that they are open enough to allow musical education into their lives. It's incredibly enriching, and I think it'll develop so many different skill sets for their future and for yourself. And it's
what about the fun aspect? Is it fun?
Yeah.
Why?
It's a night out with the symphony. You get to hang out with your friends.
No, I mean being a musician.
Oh, okay. From a musician's perspective, okay. Yeah. I actually don't feel like I'm working, which is amazing. I feel like I'm going to the hall. I walk in backstage and I'm just hanging out with my friends, and we go on stage and we do this thing together. That's amazing with my friends.
Okay, so
it's not a job.
I asked Austin this question, and okay, so why do you guys look so bored?
That's just our focused face. When we're focused and we want to do something really well, it's
this like deadpan expression.
Yeah, I mean, to each their own. Like if someone's been sitting there for 35 to 40 years, I get it. Like I can't. You've done this 3 times, 4 times longer than I have.
I mean this with respect.
No, and I do too.
I'm being lighthearted. I mean,
yeah,
but he says you actually get that question a lot.
We do
sometimes.
We do. And
if
a lot
it's
of
so
times,
much fun. Why are you guys like?
It's a focus.
Oh,
the thing is, like, we're trying to line it up.
Kill me now.
so accurately, or like honestly, like we'll get upset if one tiny thing goes off. Like we're such type A people as musicians that if something is minutely wrong, then like it bothers us.
Do you beat yourself up after performing?
Internally, yes. I don't let anyone else see it, but I am very hard on myself. Yes.
Isn't that though the whole point of art? You want it to look seamless and effortless,
definitely.
Right?
It's like the duck analogy.
Well, I always tell people as a reviewer, anything that distracts me is a sign to me that something is not right.
Yep.
If I lose sight of being in the moment, something's wrong.
Yep. If you notice,
and to me, it's not perfection, but there's never ever complete perfection. But you can point towards it. You can try to achieve it, because isn't that why you do it?
Yeah,
I mean, if you're serious, right?
Yeah, and this is why I've been a professional musician for the last 10 years, and I'm still. I feel like I've just started.
So, what do you want to leave a legacy? First of all, I mean that's kind of a cliched question in interviews, but. Yeah,
a legacy,
I want to know,
like as Kevin the human being or violinist.
What do you want to be remembered for from your career?
I think, especially with the ISO, I feel like I joined at a time where it was very tumultuous, to be totally honest. With the pandemic and everything, and we were worried about finance. We still are worried about finances. And so it would be an incredible legacy to bring this orchestra back onto the international stage, touring and recording and working with the best possible artists out there. Like, I think from a musician perspective, from a technical capability perspective, we can 100% do that. But we need to also get the community support and the international support for us to be able to operate on that level again. And so if I am able to be the concertmaster that does this for the ISO, that would be a pretty cool legacy to leave behind.
This has been such a great opportunity spending time with you, Kevin. I really am. Here's the thing. I don't believe in professional distance as a journalist, as an arts writer, because fortunately I do try to try to help my readers and TV viewers and everyone else. What makes you guys tick? What makes artists tick? I think it would give them a deeper appreciation for taking art seriously, and that it is a big contribution to our economy, to our culture, to everything. Yeah. So thank you so much for sharing your insight about all the things we've talked about. I'd like you to play a piece from a celebration of Mary Ann's life, Mary Ann Williamson Tobias, and it took place October the 24th at Hilbert, and the symphony, Jack Everly was the conductor, and pieces that she picked herself were played, including a piece that you're going to play us off with. Tell me about the piece.
It's the Meditation from Thais by Massenet. I mean, it's one of the most beautiful pieces out there.
It's sad. Sometimes it's hopeful.
Yes, and it's both. And this is what I love about music too. It's what you take away from it, and everyone will take something different away from it. And clearly, this was one of Mary Ann's favorite pieces. And when you play it at a celebration like this, you can't help but remember all the good memories that you had with Mary Ann.
So let's hear this piece. Thank you so much for that. I know that many people in the audience, myself included, there wasn't a dry eye in the house. Yeah. It was really, really moving and extraordinary. And I miss her because I would love to ask her, why did you choose these particular pieces?
It's a very eclectic mix of repertoire.
What was it like for you playing up there and playing for someone like her that you admired and knew?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a musician's job to not get overly sentimental when you're playing, so you can play it properly. But it's that this one was one that definitely you kind of forget what you're doing and you play it based on how you're feeling, and sometimes that's the best kind
one
of
her colleagues, you knew her. She had been a violinist.
Yes.
And she talked about Mary, and she was able to be emotional to talk about their personal connection. Yeah. So that just gave it a whole new aspect. So thank you again for being with me. And I look forward to seeing you on that stage at the Hilbert.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Coming years, hopefully there'll be many.
Who will take center stage on the podcast next? Your seat on the aisle with Tom Alvarez awaits. Follow Tom on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and make sure to visit tomalvarez.studio. Watch Tom every other Thursday on Lifestyle Live on Wish TV, and make sure to listen every week here on the All Indiana Podcast Network.